another episode of Art Soup. With me today, artist on loan here at Town Hall, Andy Newman. Andy has been an artist here on Cape Cod for many years, and we are just so pleased to see him and his cods here in the hearing room, as well as the Selectmen Conference Room. Andy, welcome to Town Hall.
Thanks, Paul.
So you've been in the digital arts for many, many years. Give us a little sense of your background as a digital artist.
After I left the School of Visual Arts and worked for a while, it was in the mid-'70s, and computers were just starting to be used for art. But it wasn't the kind of art that I could use for my work as a graphic designer. I joined the Graphic Artists Guild in New York, which was where I had my studio then. And they started a discipline called the Computer Arts Discipline. And I joined that and ultimately became its president. And we had meetings once a month, and we'd have speakers every 3 or 4 months at the School of Visual Arts. And it gave me a way to keep up with what was going on technologically and what was going on in software that would allow me to use it. And it wasn't until 1986 and Adobe came out with Adobe Illustrator, and I taught myself that. And in 1990 they came out with Adobe Photoshop, and again I taught myself that. And before I went to art school, as an undergrad I was in pre-med, so I had sort of a scientific background, and it helped when I was working on the computer aspect. And so in 91, we vacationed on Cape Cod for a number of years. And in 91, I decided to take my computer up to the Cape for a month in August. And usually August is a slow month. That year, I was very busy, and between email via very primitive internet and FedEx, I was able to keep the workflow going. So after that summer, I decided I wanted to move here because I realized I could work remotely, and we moved in '93 when my older daughter started high school.
So your art here in Town Hall is a series of cods. Mm-hmm. How did your digital art, which I remember reading from your bio that was a lot of book jackets and covers and things like that, how did the iconic cod intersect with your digital artwork?
Every year I do a Christmas card for clients, family, and friends. And the December of 2007, I'd already sent my cards out. I think I actually sent them digitally that year. And I wasn't that pleased with them. And so I had some time on my hands, and somehow I started playing with the image of a cod and a Christmas wreath. And I fashioned it so I could make it look like it was surrounding the cod. I put one on it, and it didn't look quite right. And then I moved it and added another one, and I looked at it and I said, "It's the Christmas cod." And I kind of went through a manic period where I just started doing one after another. I think the next one was the Valentine's cod, and one called the Cape Cod, and then all the holidays and occasions. I felt like I was like the hallmark of cods. And so a sort of quasi-business took shape. It was not a business that would support me, but it was fun. And I named it Cape Card, and actually was able to trademark the name because in Cape speak, it's Cape Cod.
Right? That's
so a lot of people don't get that, but that's the logic of it. And originally the the logo was a couple of waves that looked like seas, but I just decided to go with the cod.
Excellent. And there's so many different cods. Folks will see your slideshow throughout this interview, and obviously if they had a meeting here, they would see this artist on loan, all of our employees and people that would be through the building. Let me ask you a couple of questions that are more technical, which is the first one, the work behind these seems so intricate. Is it all digital, or is there hand sketch? Are there photographs? How do these images come together? Give us a little bit of your workflow here.
I use everything. I use a lot of photographs. I scan some stuff. I use whatever I can to make the image work. Sometimes it's a relatively simple image, like the Codfather, where I lettered the word father like it's lettered for the Godfather, and it's hanging off the cod, so you've now got the Codfather. And then if you look at one like Kaleidocod, which has a really intricate design like a kaleidoscope, and most of that design was created in Adobe Illustrator and then brought into Photoshop. All the designs ultimately end up in Photoshop.
Really? And let me just do a follow-up question with that, just because I'm interested. Can't manage to use Illustrator to save my life, but I do use Photoshop. When you're bringing these in, are you drawing on a tablet or something like that? Or are you, how does that actually fill in those colors?
Okay, so now I'm still using a mouse.
Okay.
I'm really good with a mouse, and I've even worked with my fingers on a laptop. They're all on layers. Okay. Sort of like a painter would work, and different layers in Photoshop can interact with underlying layers, either with transparency or layer effects, layer modes. Some of them could have up to 60 layers.
Wow.
Like the Rosh Hashanah cod, which it uses the talus that was from my bar mitzvah, and I used that one also in the bar mitzvah and the bat mitzvah cod.
What inspires you, Andy, in your work? How do you find inspiration to either do cods or other type of work here on the Cape?
Well, the primary source of my inspiration was my mother's work. She was a fine artist, was very versatile, and was never at a lack for ideas. And myself and my brothers all got to work in a studio and did printmaking, drawing, painting, and sometimes helped her with her sculptures. Artists, past and present, are a constant source of inspiration, and some of them are parts of these cods. I don't know, sometimes you just look out the window here and you see something that makes you think, man, maybe I can use that. Living on Cape Cod is a constant inspiration.
Wonderful. You have so many cods, from birthdays to holidays. Are there some favorites of yours? Mine, just because I live in the village of Marston's Mills and I see it on my daily walk, is the library cod. Tell us a little bit about that and about some of the cods that you might have as favorites.
The library cod started by the head librarian asking me if I'd be interested in doing one for the library and for their sign out front. And I had thought about the library cod before, it seemed like a natural. And I said, sure, I'll do it. And then as I got into it, they decided they also wanted a big print of it on the side of the building. I think I used the Sandy Neck Beach as the background for that. And also came up with the logo for the library in the process of doing that. And it's the MMPL, with the L being the Universal Library sign. And it's about, I think it's 6 feet by 5 feet, and it's printed on aluminum. And it's been there since 2009, and it seems to be holding up pretty well.
Right. And you have cods, your favorites?
Um,
There's so many of them.
yeah, there are a lot. I think there's between 70 and 80. The Halloween cod's one of my favorites. If you look closely, you'll see that the tail is actually a broom. And the cat's looking at it like, that would make a good meal. And that was made up of a photo of the water and sky was to it. The tree was a separate silhouette, as well as the cat and the moon. And put them all together.
Right.
And you got the Halloween cod.
Right. And you have some that are like really intricate?
I do. But getting back to my favorites.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Another one is I titled Codrian after Piet Mondrian. And it's a cod with a Mondrian design dress on and overlaid over a design similar to some of his geometric work. And maybe the third one would be one called Corn on the Cod, which couldn't have done without Photoshop. I was able to merge an ear of corn with a cod. And again, that was, I think that was the Sandy Neck Beach shot, and I drew the grass in the front with a brush and Photoshop. I got the idea for that just eating an ear of corn.
That's great.
You asked about intricate backgrounds. I'd say, I think I mentioned it before, the Kaleido cod has the most intricate in terms of patterns and images, just like a kaleidoscope. And that was the background, not including the cods, was all created in Adobe Illustrator and brought into Photoshop. And then I can add all kinds of effects there.
Well, a lot of those are my favorites as well.
None of them are really simple. They're all, because I try to make it look like it wasn't done on a computer.
Right. Well, that's why I asked, because some of these look like they had been somewhat hand-drawn and then had to be scanned in and then had to be colorized. Some artists have actually shared that they embraced the isolation of COVID-19. They learned new skills or explored new techniques. Has the pandemic changed or enhanced your art? Have you picked up any new hobbies or skills?
Actually, the pandemic hasn't changed my life a lot, since I've always worked, at least since I've been on the Cape, worked alone in my studio. In New York, I had a couple of assistants, but the computer kind of got rid of them. The biggest change in the pandemic is not being able to rehearse with most of the music groups that I play with. I play all lower brass, tuba, bass trombone, and euphonium. I'm the only group that's still rehearsing is the Brentwood Brass Quintet, and we rehearse in a gallery in Dennis in separate spaces.
So it's interesting, as we came to Town Hall to do this interview, you pointed to the town green, so I miss playing there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. This whole unprecedented issue with the pandemic and social distancing has really impacted the arts and culture community throughout the country, obviously throughout the world, but specifically here on Cape Cod. Tell us how people can support the arts community during this time.
I'm pretty partial to the Katuitt Center for the Arts. I've been in a lot of shows there, and I think anything people can do to keep that going would be great, as well as the other galleries and museums on the Cape. I hate to see them end up being shut down as a result of this. And being a musician, I also I feel like it would be great if they can support the symphony, keep it going. Yeah.
Yeah. Cape Cod, you have other work that you do as well. Where can people find out more about all the other things that you do, plus your cards?
I have two websites. One is andrewnewmandesign.com, and the other one is capecard.net. Capecard.net is right now actually my Etsy store. I also have a store on Zazzle.com. It's zazzle.com/capecard. Yeah.
So when you talk about, because I'm going to do a follow-up question with that, when you talk about, supporting artists, their work is out there. How do you help people find work? You mentioned Zazzle. What type of work would be there? How could people get your work in your hands? Because it's not just these prints, right? There's other product?
Yeah, on Zazzle you can, and there are other websites similar to Zazzle that artists can actually apply their work to just about any kind of apparel product. The thing is, unless you sell huge volume, the margins are not great. Artists can also set up sites using Shopify and linking to printers that would allow them to have people order stuff, get it printed, get it delivered to them without having to actually do the printing or handling themselves.
What a wonderful, amazing display of work that you have here, Andy. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers?
I don't just do cards. Most of my work is not cards, actually. I'm a graphic designer by trade. I design just about anything from business cards to billboards to tombstones. I did a lot of book jackets for the beginning of my career, and then as the computer crept into publishing houses, a lot of that work went in-house. I do hope that we are able to turn climate change around at some point, because otherwise we won't have any more cards.
That's a great note to leave with folks, is that your work is a reflection of the environment that you live in. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Paula.